Welcome to a new episode of Signal Chain Stories, a podcast for musicians, artists, and creators. My name is Miles Kundra, and I'm co-hosting the podcast with my wonderful friend Mordio. And here we will be discussing the joy, the fun, but also the roadblocks and frustrations of the life as an artist. And today we will be speaking about workflows, a topic I think a lot of people are interested in. So my first question goes to you, my friend. What is your current workflow and how do you make your music?
So I split both of it from the analog side, the hardware side, and the computer side. So on the computer, I use Ableton and Ableton stack devices. Like I think I have like 2 VST that I sometimes use, but I don't need them. They're just like nice to have. So I would say it's like Ableton stack devices and an analyzer and mouse and keyboard. That's it. And then
the most basic tools, but the ones that you definitely need.
Yeah, I like to modulate stuff with a lot of LFOs, so I don't have to do it all by hand and don't write automations so much. So I kind of building this like complex systems. I think it comes from the philosophy that Eurorack taught me somehow when I was really into Eurorack patching. That every time you feel like you want to have a hand for something, like, oh, that sounds cool making this. Maybe I don't want to do this. I just use a cable for it. Suck. And now I do the same philosophy in Ableton all the time. And then on the hardware side, it's a bit messy right now, but I'm building like always.
Oh, wow.
My corner's new. I have this like kind of DJ booth that is a hybrid setup. So I have my DJ mixer somewhere there, and then also the players on the side. But then also the modular synthesizer, and on top I have then the Torso S4 and the Digitakt. And I literally put my speakers there because here I use the headphones on the computer.
Ah, okay. So it's a completely dawless corner.
Completely dawless.
Okay. How do you record from there?
If
If you want to record something?
Yeah, I have the so everything goes into my DJ mixer. It's somewhat there. And then from the DJ mixer, there's one long cable going here into my interface, so I can record just in computer.
Okay.
So most
That's
of the
cool.
time, if I do something there, I literally open OBS or Ableton and just record.
Okay. As easy as that.
Easy like that.
So,
Because I like to have the analog sessions really how they are recorded somehow and don't have so much post-production on it. And then in Ableton, I like the opposite, where I can go, everything is MIDI, everything is automated in a system that I can change later again. And working more like with templates.
Yeah, a classic DAW versus dawless scenario that you have here. DAW like straight working in Ableton, and then you have your dawless corner. That's really cool.
How's your
I
setup?
like the idea of the situation. I play with a hybrid setup right now, and maybe before we dive in deeper, as we know, we have a couple of starters like who are new to electronic music production in this podcast. Maybe a quick explanation of the different terms. So DAW basically stands for Digital Audio Workstation. It's your DAW of choice that you run on your computer, like for example Logic, Ableton Live, Cubase, whatever you're using.
Reaper,
Pro Tools.
Bitwig.
Bitwig, of course, yeah. You name it. A lot of cool music production software where you have everything in the box. Reason, a good one. I started actually with Reason back in the day. Reason was the first DAW that I used before I switched to Ableton.
Oh, nice. It's a nice one. You learn the hardware
really
side really. That's why you end up at the hardware side.
That's true. And that's actually a good call because hardware side then is dawless, which as the name says, it basically means a setup that doesn't include any DAW. So you only work with external hardware, sequencers, synthesizers, drum machines, Eurorack, and then from there, basically you build a setup that works for you and you don't have a computer.
Yeah, and you're making, like you have external sequencers and you're making your arrangement with an external mixer somehow.
Exactly, yeah. Exactly. Very good call. And then fusing both worlds together is hybrid. This means basically you have a as the name says, hybrid setup of a DAW running together with external hardware. And that is actually the setup that I'm currently working with. I started actually. I pretty much played it all through. So when I started music production when was it, 2015, 16, when I really started to kind of like get into it, I first started with a DAW, so with Reaper, and then later switched to Ableton. And then I got myself my first synthesizer in 2020, which was the Elektron Digitone. And I at first wanted to use it as an addition to Ableton Live, but then very quickly discovered that if you just play the synthesizer all by itself, it's just so much fun because it's compact, it's one device, it's like if you learn the device, you can do a lot of things with it.
Yeah, and it has also a sequencer and a mixer inside. So that's
true.
why you have everything that you need. That was
Everything
a big point for me that I didn't understand when I was in Eurorack in the beginning, that I need somehow something to mix and somehow to sequence stuff also.
Exactly.
To make it to a dawless setup.
Yeah, 100%. And then with the Digitone, you also have the advantage that it's an FM synthesizer, which means you can both craft very cool percussive sounds, but also craft very easily some great melodic sounds. So you can actually make complete tracks on the device in different genres, which is great. And then, from there, I started to build my dawless setup. I added a Digitact. Then I added some effects pedals like the hologram microcosm. And then at one point, I felt that my jams, I loved making music this way, but my jams were a little bit rough, and I wanted to have some more in-depth mixing controls. The same thing, actually, as you said about modulation that you use in Ableton Live. I wanted to have some more kind of like equalization controls, because the Digitone back in the days only had 2 different filters, and they were very limiting and more for sound design, not so much for mixing. Yeah. So it was quite hard to mix your tracks in the device itself. And this is how I ended up basically with a hybrid setup, which also is now my live performance setup. So I have Ableton Live running, and then I have here on the side actually 3 main devices on the table. The first one here is the Moog Mother 32, which I use for a lot of ARPs. It gets MIDI directly from Ableton. Then I have here the Push standalone. It's I use it as a controller for Ableton Live, but can also use it for standalone if I do sound design. And it's basically the main hub of my setup, where I control sound effects and different channels. And I also use it a lot as a mixer, as you say.
Yeah, so it's kind of your matrix, right? Your mixer that bring all the devices together.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. For me, it was like the mixer, always like this.
Yeah, same. The cool thing is with the Push, you can use it for different things. So you can also use it to play sounds and stuff. But I sometimes also go just in the mixer section, where I can then bring up or down the levels of my different tracks, which is just very, very handy to have.
I wish the thing had faders.
Oh yeah. Actually, when Ableton announced the move, I was hoping for something with faders. I was hoping it was a smaller version of the Push, which it was. But then I was like, please make it have faders that you then also can use as an Ableton Live MIDI device that you can just then connect to it and then use to control all your channels. I would have gotten it instantly, but then seeing it has kind of like the
beatmaker machine with mic input.
Yeah, I mean, it's still cool. It's still a cool device, and I'm still thinking about maybe in the future getting one as a sketchpad, or maybe also as an additional tool for live performances, to have some loops running on it and then incorporating it in my current setup. But if it would have faders, I would have gotten it instantly, to be honest.
Yeah, I can imagine myself having a push-free standalone, making my complex systems working on it, only stock stuff, so it works, and then putting the output from the Push into my S4, the Torso S4, to make it to an ambient texture thing, whatever I put in. So I make the arrangement somehow in the Push, but everything have one theme with the sound of the S4.
Oh, nice. What does the S4 then do? Does it add additional?
The S4 have an input,
effects?
And that input can go through all of these effects. Plus, I have 4 channels in the S4. It's also a mixer somehow a bit. You have 4 channels where you can put a sample or the input that you put. And then the sample or the input plays back. And you can change the pitch and all the things that you can do with a sample, right? But then also you go in a granular engine. And that is live, so you don't have to record it. You live granulate stuff, and you can even wet try it, so you hear both, you know?
Okay, that's cool.
That's what I mean. That's why I love this thing so much. And then after this, you go into a section of a filter that you can use like a normal filter, or you can resonate this filter with 64 bands and give it a key. So you have like a beautiful, shimmery, amazing. It just sounds amazing. Nice. And then I have a lot of videos on it. You have to watch it. You can see it every time I put the filter, and it's like and then it goes to like a more like how you say, an FX function where you can put distortion, noise, all these things. And then the next is delay and reverbs.
Nice.
And this full chain is for each channel from the 4. And the 4 channels can be also the input. Like you go monitoring and then you have 4 times and just change it differently, you know?
Okay, that's cool.
You know what I mean? Like you can really go deep with that thing as like an FX device, almost like a guitar pedal.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
I see it more like this also.
Yeah, so that you completely can mess up your incoming signal and make something entirely new out of it.
Yes.
I love that. It reminds me a little bit, of course, totally different, but how I use the hologram microcosm, this effects pedal. It's like sometimes I just send stuff through it and then I mess around with the controls and see what I come up with. And then I kind of like resample it into Ableton and then use it as background pads, as whatever it is. So another advantage of a hybrid setup, because then I can immediately record some stuff like that into Ableton and then use it in my music.
I do that sometimes, that I say I want to start a track, but I want to have something I can start with. So I have a blank Ableton session, and then I just record some, like most of the time the modular is still patched, the modular system. So I have an old patch. I just take the old patch and let it run in a BPM that I want to maybe try. And then I have just weird FX sounds, weird melodies or something going, and just scramble around a little bit for like, I don't know, 5 minutes. Then I use some parts that I like and start a new track from that.
Nice.
So a really nice workflow sometimes.
Yeah.
And a good start material also, because the Eurex sounds really sharp and clean most of the time. It's like when you start with the Moog, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. This is also then the other piece of gear I have. This is my Moog Sub 25, which I also use during all my live performances. It's either I play it live by hand using the keyboard, or I sequence it from Ableton Live. And yeah, this is kind of like the setup I, for now, ended up using, because it gives me a lot of flexibility in terms of both making music here in the studio, but also live performance, because it's, when I play live, I just have to take this device, like the Push 3, and the Moog Sub 25, which is a little bit on the bulky side, but still you can somehow travel with it. I bought myself a very big
case,
backpack, and also a case and a suitcase where everything of that fits in, with some clothes for me, so I can just pack that big suitcase and then travel anywhere. Flying with it is difficult because I would need to, I can't use it as hand luggage, so that's a little bit tricky. But everything where I travel by train for gigs is very easy. So
same for me. I use the modular as like it's a suitcase in itself, and then the S4, I mean, it's just bloop into the backpack.
It's tiny.
It's super tiny,
Cool.
Yeah, that's and great. I think everything else I would not bring, because live I mainly do ambient. And
so if you play as a live act, it's only ambient.
I didn't play live acts so much anymore now, but the last, I think, 4 live acts, there was ambient. And I actually like it. It's like the stuff I do with these machines, mainly. It's my ambient corner somehow. So I think, now it would be this. I don't want to make that fixed, because I also did heavy techno live acts in the past. But I don't know. Then you always need to bring 2 Eurorack systems, Like you need a full drum machine system and a
Yeah.
full back system. And then
I
it
mean, you
sounds
could use
amazing.
something like a digitakt, for example. I know a lot of people who play live as a live act. They for drums and percussions they use a digitakt. Even the Mark One has 8 tracks, and you can change patterns and sounds, so you can do quite a big variety of sounds. And then for everything melodic, they just use their Eurorack and go crazy.
Yes, that's why I have the Digitakt actually. But then I end up
Okay.
making ambient with the Digitakt because of our last session. You know, I got the
Oh yeah.
Digitakt like almost new when we did the episode. You know, so when Amiva told us how to use that thing with auto sequencer, since then I just using it and putting it into the S4.
Oh, okay.
So you have like a
I
drone.
can understand that.
You have a drone going on that you constantly change. Like I like that you don't use the sequencer then, you know. So you kind of use just one pattern. So you start to use this full box like a synthesizer. Like you touch things with your hands and they move things. And if you don't touch anything, it's maybe the LFO doing something, but the rest is not like there's no new sequence you have to make on or something. You know what I mean? It gives me less anxiety.
Yeah, I feel that. I think it's different than the machine is created because you have all these banks and all these patterns and the
Shift
great
buttons.
Elektron seat, exactly
Yeah.
the sequencer where everything is stored and you can even record automations in. But the way how Amiva uses it and the way he told us about it is like also for me completely different way of thinking about the device because I feel it's something fresh and something where exactly as you say, you use it more like you, for example, use a Moog synthesizer like the Mother 32, which doesn't have any presets, and it's just like you tweak knobs until you find something that sounds nice, and then you go with the flow. And I think that's super cool.
Yeah, it was mindfuck. I have to say, we have to plug his new video. He dropped a video on his YouTube channel, a full deep dive where he explained this like the way how he uses it. The technique. Thank you. How he use it, like in like I think a really long video. So it's really nice. I don't know if you watch it. You should watch it. It's really good.
I think I haven't watched it yet.
Watch
Definitely
it.
comes on my.
You're so hyped after.
Okay.
It was really, really good. Like he's just calming and chilling there and showing really how he used this thing and how he thinks also why he used the things so different. And see it more like frequency, that he used to filter like a EQ, like you told me. And that was actually a question that I got when you said that. Do you know if it's now different? Like, can you have some EQ functionalities in your Digitone and Digitakt?
I'm not sure if it is for the Mark One, but Elektron recently released the Digitakt 2 and the Digitone 2. And I believe they still have 2 filters, but they work now differently. So you can also have kind of like, as with an EQ8 in Ableton, you can have EQ slopes where at different frequency ranges, you can just lower the volume. So you can start to use the filter
A little
really
bit
more
like-
as a classical EQ, or not a classical, but kind of like a modern digital EQ.
That's
and
really
I
important.
think, that's super important because that gives you more mixing
Sound design also,
flexibilities.
like you just say,
Yeah,
I want to
as
record
well.
some rumble bass kick. I don't know, like the perfect example when you record something like, you know, into your mic, and then you're just taking the frequency range that you really want and making a kick out of it and then putting a click on top, and it's an amazing kick, right?
Yeah, true.
Because all of the room noise inside and all that stuff without having actually reverb on it, you know? So it is dry for the mix, but having all this information there. So it's really cool to use that, but you need an EQ for doing that. So that's why I think I could never sound design full techno tracks in a Digitakt. But when you say that, like using it like only for the drum machine, like using in my techno, the faster groovy stuff, a lot of people using just 909s because the bass of them are amazing, right? And then sound design them and make them like not sounding like a 909 anymore.
Yeah.
And I think that's something I want to try soon, like putting that thing on my computer, loading the best 909 samples I can find on it, and then just use that one pattern for this 909, you know, and just changing the drum machine somehow on the fly when I jam.
Yeah,
think
I
that
mean,
would
you
be
can
cool.
still do that, and you can still do wild stuff also performance-wise with it, because once you save your pattern, you can start to completely mess it up and then just hit pattern or function and no to completely reload it. This is the
Function no.
stuff that I love about the Elektron devices. So you could even go kind of like to this is something I used to do when I performed. I mean, it was not hard techno; it was more on the house side, but still some nice stuff for transition. Is then when you start to use your amp ADSR and kind of like you can hold the MIDI button, and then when you turn a knob, it changes the value for all the tracks, not only for the one that you're onto, but for all the tracks. And then when you start to increase the attack time of your amp ADSR, it's like really your complete sound changes, and it starts to be something more abstract. And then you can use that for a transition, and then the moment you want to go back. Yeah, exactly. And then you hit just function and no, and then your kick and everything comes back and starts to punch again. It's super nice. You can, I think you would do some amazing and cool stuff with that. So I can only encourage you to do that.
Hey, when you come for the Super Booth, I think we need to have a big session on that machine, because I have to say I'm still not warm with that Elektron stuff. I'm too, like, my brain is too much in the Eurorack system patching, and then I see always this Digitakt up there, and I just click this one button, I know, so something new happened, and then I go back into the patching. So it's like kind of...
But I think then also it would be great for a 2 people kind of like setup. So honestly, I think that would be a great thing to do. Like if I, for example, do the percussive stuff on the Digitakt, giving you kind of like the rhythm and the groove, constantly shaping and changing it, and you do the melodic stuff on top with the Eurorack, I think that would be awesome. And then we like it so much that we start to play live with that as a duo.
I can tell you, my melodics are not really melodic.
Hey, I love it. I love hypnotic stuff. So don't hold back. Just give me the full hypnotic treatment, and I will absolutely love it.
It's shifting till your mind is falling apart.
I can't wait.
Yeah, no, let's have a jam. Absolutely, I can't wait.
Cool. Yeah, looking forward to that. Awesome.
So
good stuff. Yeah.
What was the?
Sorry.
Yeah. What was the main thing for you jumping to hardware? Like I would say you are like a hardware person. You are a hybrid person, but if you go live, are you like with the computer, or are you actually without the laptop?
I'm with a computer, but I don't. It just does processing, so I don't have to look at it. I've also played one.
I saw the video where you have the laptop like to the side, like people can see.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I have also done that in one gig I played where I knew there were a lot of kind of like geeks in the crowd that were very interested. I just turned the laptop basically facing the crowd.
Yeah, it's nice. So I think a lot of
kind of like people could
that.
see what was going on in Ableton Live, and actually a couple of people just came to the front row and looked at the laptop, kind of like seeing. I was just a little bit scared that someone would just go like this and just shut it down or something, because then the set would have been over. But no one did that, fortunate enough. But yeah, the laptop is part of it, but mainly due to processing power. So I don't need it. Everything I do performance-wise, and also everything I need to look at is my Push 3 and the Moog Sub 25. So these are my 2 performance tools, and also find 2 performance tools a very good amount. I first, when I started to play live the first time, I played with my Mother 32, with the Digitakt, the Digitone, and the Push 2, and that was just overwhelming. Like that gave me
that feeling.
I had some moments where I was playing, and I was wondering, where's this weird sound coming from? And then I realized I hadn't changed the pattern on the Digitone for ages, because I just forgot it. It's kind of like I did all the stuff on the other things, and then the Digitone I completely forgot about. And then I thought, this pattern doesn't sound as it should sound. And then I realized, oh my God, I just completely forgot to load a new pattern, to change the settings and everything. So it just sounded awful. But
I have stories like this too. There was like one live act that I play with Amiva together, actually. And he bring his keyboard. We make a huge act to put all this keyboard in a nice way that we put boxes under it, like a huge act, okay? And then in the end, I looked at him after the gig and I was like, dude, did you play your keyboard? And he was like, God damn. And like you have to imagine, like, he's one of the best. Like the best thing that he can do in our live act situation is, because I'm making so many textures with the modular and everything, it's so nice when he brings some keys in that he literally played by a human, because everything is so sequencer, and it breaks the all the sequencers, you know. So when he
Yeah, it gives
plays,
some
it's
human
always,
touch.
yeah, it's always like, oh, nice, what a contrast, nice. And he forgot to play the keys because it was left on the side, and he was so focused on his like electrons. It was so funny. Like in the end, he was literally forgetting his main thing. You know, it was so funny because he was also nervous, and me too. And
Yeah, of course.
it was one of those days, but it was really
Yeah.
funny. Then you just forget it. I think one of my craziest gig, I think in my band Instagram account, I have that video, but there's like one live act I did in Dresden in, I think, Corona times. Was more like a live stream, and I bring everything. So I got 2 racks, Eurorack, like 2 cases of Eurorack, my iPad for some granular synthese, and my 32-channel mixer. So to make my arrangement like
Holy
nice
cow.
and touching my faders, because actually playing with a mixer is the way I come from. Like I play like analog stuff, and on my YouTube channel, like old videos, so you can see that mixer sometimes still, where I make really like jams just with this mixer, because the mixer just give me effects like phasing and stuff that I can just put in as an aux sense and cutting out and then making a new movement. And I also got motorized phasers. So it was really nice to like put one fader up and they go stereo up together, the 2 faders. And it was super nice to jam with, but it was way too big. So at some point I was like, also in my flat, like it was like here, poof, on my desk, and there was no space for my mouse and keyboard. And I was like, ugh. So I sell it at some point. It was a sad day for little Mordio. But I like it now, minimalistic.
But you got it, you kind of like got some stuff back, Eurorack wise, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, the Eurorack stuff I didn't sell. I just put it somewhere, and now I put some stuff back into one rack, and I think I try to keep it more minimalistic now because of what you just said, that I want to go back into live, but I want to have a setup that is literally possible. Because this was like in Dresden, this guy was like, please, I want you live so bad and only live. And I was like, okay, but then you have to drive me there and back from Berlin. And he was like, got you. So I was like, okay, cool. Then I come with my huge mixer.
Okay, cool.
So yeah, I got that. It was okay. But I know what you mean. It's like there's too much options on a live act. You're always a little bit nervous. So you always...
Yeah, you have to take that in consideration.
You
it's not
have
a
a little
environment.
minus on what you actually can do. Normally at home,
100%.
you can do the 100%. On a live act, you will do the 80-90%.
Yeah. And even, I would say sometimes you even overperform over the 100%, but then it's different because you are kind of like entering a zone. I had that in my last live show I played in January at a festival. I was really getting halfway through the set when I was kind of like playing half an hour, 35 minutes. I started to really get into a flow, into the zone. I saw the people dancing, the crowd moving. It was kind of like very, very nice place with a great light show and stuff. So it was really cool. And I just completely zoned out. But these are exactly then the moments when I feel, okay, I'm going with the stuff and I'm feeling this device and this device. If it's then another device, I would probably completely forget about that device. And
I think that's what I meant, or you meant also. If you have like, there is like a limitation that you need for a live act to get into that state, that flow. That hyper focus, or how you want to call it. Would you say it is with the computer bringing you more out of this? That's why you're turning it also away? Because I have that feeling. I played live with Ableton and a MIDI controller, and I felt like not that connected to being here right now. I felt in the screen, you know? That's the problem with the screens always. That's why I have the setup without screens.
Yeah. No, I can completely get that. And my first shows, I also played completely dawless, and that was definitely a different vibe then.
Right.
But yeah, I think it's it's kind of like a mixed thing, because on the screen actually there's no real information that I need apart from one thing, and this is especially when I play gigs where I know, okay, I have a sharp kind of like deadline when I need to be finished with my set. So I can only play 1 hour and it needs to be 1 hour sharp. I use a plugin by Ifta. Shout out Ifta. He's one of the most amazing Max for Live devices developers. He's fantastic. And he has this plugin. It's just called Big Time. And it sits on my master, and I can also use it as basically a floating screen. And the only thing it does is the moment I hit play on my Ableton Live set, a time starts to run, and I can exactly see how long I play.
Nice.
Kind of like time-wise. So when I start, I know, okay, my time runs now, and I have an hour time. This also gives me a lot of more freedom, because sometimes I'm in the set and I'm like, okay, I don't know how long have I played.
It's always like
so
this.
When to end. Yeah. And this really helps me, because then I see, okay, I'm now in the set for 35 minutes. I have 25 to go. So all the time in the world, I can just still go crazy. I can play another couple of songs. And then when I see, okay, 10 minutes to go, okay, I should now really start to push it for the grand final. And then at 58 minutes, when it's an hour playtime, and okay, now I need to start to wind down stuff and bring out some elements, bring in maybe some scent effects, like some shimmery reverbs to make it a little bit more spherical to
you land the ship.
So, exactly. And this is, I think, the only reason I really need the screen, because all the other stuff, like, it's just happening. I know it's there. I know when I load it, everything works. So it just
I need that timer.
Just to work. It's great. It's a free device.
There's so many DJ sets where I see myself in the end, like stuff like Her or something, if you play these radio shows, right? And then you see in the last pieces where you're just like constantly going to the phone, double tap it and be like, oh.
Yeah.
I hate
and
that.
This is always so annoying. I used to have it here on my watch, kind of like a timer, but then it looks like you're constantly looking on your watch, and it's like for the crowd, is this guy bored? When is this shit over?
But
it's
you don't
like,
want to be this guy,
for
right?
me, exactly. I just want to have a natural way to track how long I was playing, and that was actually for me the best thing, because I also started to set to bring a little alarm clock with me, but I had 2 times at live set where I just forgot to press to start the alarm clock when I started.
Yeah, because you're nervous when you start.
Exactly.
Always.
So I needed something that is running. No matter what I do, the moment I start my live set, the moment I press play on my push 3 to start Ableton Live, it gives me the countdown. And then I'm like, oh shit, I forgot to look at it. But then it's there, because it started when I started. So it's like, what you said about being nervous is so true.
Yeah,
and,
totally. When you start,
it's something you have to have to keep that in your mind. And so for me, it was always important to automate the things that I needed to work in a way that kind of like I don't have to think about all of that stuff. So I know I have a timer running, but I don't have to think about it, because the moment I press play, it just runs.
Yeah,
and
I do
that
this
was kind of like...
I do that with everything in my life, actually.
Yeah.
So the philosophy about this, like, no computer, right? It goes quite deep with a lot of people. And I feel like I have this too, that like, I don't want to have the screen because it put me into the screen and not with the environment I'm actually here right now. That's why I want the hardware side. But for me, even the Digitakt with the shift button is already too much sometimes. Screen.
Okay.
You know, on my Eurorack, I really clearly decided to use modules that don't have screens. They are all just faders, knobs, and no screens, so no shift buttons. And even my sequencers normally have screens, you know, also in the Eurorack world. But I have the Bloom from Qubit, what is like literally kind of a sequencer where you can like intervals that like kind of give you some random melodies that stays in one key. So he just decides on itself what he wants to play somehow. I love this generative stuff, right? Yep. So, but with this stuff, most of the time you can like have really, really complex things without screens. That's why I went into this world, I guess. But it comes from the point that I wanted to go away 100% from the screens. And then when I came back to Ableton, I love the possibilities again. But
You have a screen again.
You have a screen again. In my case, a huge one.
Yeah.
But then only Ableton is okay, Metering in Ableton, wonderful. I love that. Mouse and keyboard, working with this. But like translating from okay, now I'm thinking Eurorack. Now I'm thinking Digitakt. So it's different workflows, right? Now I'm thinking Ableton. And then your mind have to jump between like 3 languages. It's like switching from Spanish to English to German. It's quite intense,
It is. It really is.
We all know that.
Requires, yeah, absolutely. It requires a lot of processing power from your brain. And I think the thing you say about no screens is actually so true. And maybe coming back to the initial question of this episode, how to find your workflow, is I think people really need to ask themselves first what works best for them, but also what gives them the best feeling. Because exactly as you say, I know a lot of people who say one of the reasons why I don't work with a DAW is that I have kind of like a computer job in my day job. So I work in management or do whatever. And I sit like 8 hours a day in front of a computer and watch at a screen. And then when I start to do my free time stuff that I enjoy, I don't want to do the same thing again.
I have this
which
with
I can
YouTube.
Completely understand. Yeah.
Like working on YouTube tutorials in Ableton, and then after opening Ableton is not the way. So that's why I go to this corner and just jam a little bit and maybe record something.
I can completely understand that, because what I also started to build, it's a little bit hidden here behind the Sub 25 in the background, but I have a little, I call it my small dawless corner, and it's basically just the Digitone running through my 2 effect pedals, the hologram chroma console and microcosm, and then from there going here into my mixer. So this is something, even if my computer here is not started, I can just start my mixer here.
Yeah.
I can start all the devices and I can start to make music.
That
and that's
feeling.
Something, yeah, exactly.
That's
the feeling. It's more like
the computer's off.
The computer's off.
This is what I mean.
It's for me a little bit of a love-hate relationship, because I love working, as you say, I love working in Ableton and I love my hybrid setup, but sometimes I need something where I have more the feeling like it's more like picking up an acoustic guitar or something. You just do it and you can play immediately and you don't have to think, okay, I start my computer, I turn on my mouse and my keyboard. Yeah, exactly. Does everything have energy? Is everything plugged in? Then I start Ableton. Then I click around in my session. I need to drag and drop effects and stuff. And here it's just like
click.
It works.
Play.
Exactly. It works. And if I have something, I can still record it.
For me, this is holy. Like I have sometimes sessions where me and my girlfriend, we just chill here and I don't know, smoke or something, and we just having sometimes the patch on that I have from the days, what is most of the time ambient, so it's calming. So we just make these machines on, let it play, and they're constantly changing. Like I told you with the sequencer and all that stuff, they're constantly changing. It's not a loop. And we don't even bother to touch that thing once. We just 2 hours here having a conversation, and the thing is running. If it's my computer, I always have the feeling I need to change a little bit this, change a little bit this now, if it would run a patch, right? So this is something I feel like I can just get with dawless. And I think it's also what everyone who wants to figure out dawless or not, have both situations in your life and feel it. Really feel, is this holy for you? Because there's like people totally in the ambient world, I would say there's more people without computers. Just because the machines don't need so much to do. So like a lot of times machines give you limitations that your complex techno system or something is not working. So you need more machines. But then for ambient, sometimes one row of Eurorack is enough and it sounds amazing, right? But like big people like Rod Model. Do you know Rod Model? It's like dub techno, mastermind, rhythm. No, not rhythm sound, but like he also did on Astral Industries some ambient releases. And
okay, cool. I need to check that.
Rod Model is a king of textures and ambient and stuff. And I was figuring out, like, always, this guy have tape machines and everything. It sounds so organic and so amazing for sure. And then Amiva actually told me he just used a laptop. He just uses a laptop and nothing else, and he don't care about the rest, and he's really proud about it. And I was like, wow, because he's a legend of the dub techno scene from labels like Echo Space and stuff. Like I think he's also Deep Chord. I'm not sure yet right now, but like you definitely hear stuff from
Deep
Rod
Chord,
Model.
Okay.
Yeah.
Deep Chord, I know.
Yeah, you have a lot of aliases. So
okay, Deep Chord, I know.
Yeah,
and I really like it. So.
Yeah, Deep Chord, I think was him or someone sounding the same like Deep Chord. You know, the dub techno stuff sounds quite similar most of the time, but it's really nice.
But it's really, really nice. And I think it's a great example again to also coming back to the workflow question that in the end, if the music is great, the workflow, how it was created, doesn't really matter. It's like, I think it needs to solve you as a person, as an individual, of what you prefer, because in the end, I always think that music making should be fun at first. I think that's something we also touched on this podcast, that a lot of producers, then they get into it and then they get frustrated with Ableton, and then they sit there, have these hour-long sessions where it's just full of frustration. And I'm like, folks, this is not how it should be. I think music making should be fun. It should be explorative. It should be kind of like, let your inner child out, be playful. And whatever environment sparks that for you, if it's dawless, hybrid, or DAW, I think that's the way people should go.
Yes. I think there's two things that you have to have in mind when you want to make this decision. First of all, hardware is more expensive than having like one computer and an Ableton. Right? So it's cheaper to go DAW, but limitations sometimes make you a better musician. So
100%.
Ableton gives you always possibilities to the roof. So it can make you to a no producer in the end because you have too much options. So I think this is something you have to have clear in mind. Do you want to have a clear goal that you have to learn this little machine now, like an Elektron or something? I think then this is good because you will have this limitation and you will learn that device for sure. If you want like a good solution for long term and you're ready to learn deep and don't get overwhelmed from the beginning, but you don't have so much money, I mean, digital is always easy to get somehow. So you can find a way in till you can buy everything that you need, and with a little MIDI controller, a nice Ableton version, and a nice laptop that don't kills you in every live act, and then you're good, you know.
Yeah.
So I think this is portable. Yeah, it's really portable. There's no hassle with like a live act only Ableton. You know, there's no hassle. It's the perfect DAW for that.
It is, and then you can still start to use MIDI controllers to make your live sets. I know a lot of live acts who only play in Ableton and the only hardware they use is just MIDI controllers, like different faders, different knobs, exactly, that they've mapped to different sound effects, to performance things and so on, and then they just play with that and it works great.
Absolutely.
I think again, it's something where you can... Yeah, exactly. You could probably talk on for hours and hours more. Yes. And there are still people saying, well, but then dawless is kind of like more, as you say, also gives you limitations, which I think is super important.
Yes.
But actually, I think it's also something you can create in Ableton, because what I always love to do is when I do sound design in Ableton, especially due to the fact that Ableton is so overwhelming, I only take 3 devices. So when I say, okay, I want to do a sound design session, let's say on Ableton's Drift synthesizer, I just take this one and then a maximum of 3 effects that I choose beforehand, like for example, a hybrid reverb, a filter delay, and a phaser. Yeah, let's take these 3. Yeah, the phaser is woo. And then I just go with it and see where I end up with. But I know these are my limitations and I can't add any other effects. So I need to squeeze everything I can out of these devices that I have. And I think this way you can create limitations to boost your creativity also within Ableton or within any other DAW. But I agree that dawless, it's probably easier. You say, okay, I just take this box, and this is the box I make music on now for the next month.
20 years.
Probably, or even 20 years.
I mean, I do Ableton for over 15 years, and I'm never bored.
Yeah.
You know, every time I open it. Yesterday night, I was just hanging with my friends from IO Records, right, in the Discord chill. We just chill. And one guy was starting making music and sharing his screen, right? And then I watched him making something because he wanted to try something. And I was like, oh, that's cool. Try this. And then we nerded together into the session. Then he started to make a full track out of it. Then I was so excited about Ableton that I just opened my session, streamed that too. And then Linny came in, Polygonia, and everyone, and we just jammed. It was so funny. Everyone was in
That's
Ableton.
cool.
So the software is like one of those video games that you play forever, you know?
Yeah. The World of Warcraft.
World of Warcraft of the music.
Oh god.
Fucking MMOs, oh my god.
Yeah, we are nerds, yes.
Absolutely. I mean, you end up with computer games because you want to play video games. Then you start to learn about computers. Then you learn about audio. Then you think, wait, can you make your own audio in a computer? And then here we are, you know?
Yeah, true.
I think I never would call myself, I will become a music producer. That was never my vision.
Same.
I think before I do this, I will be photography or painting or something. I was more like a visual person. I was painting really well when I was a kid. And that I end up in making music was never planned. It was just me downloading, I think, on DAW, and I was like, wait, that's cool. Just from the interest of being a nerd, you know?
Yeah.
I think it's super important to do those things in life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And this is why I think the whole explorative part of making music is so important, that you follow kind of like your inner voice. Sounds very cheesy, but it's actually a little bit like this, kind of like you have this thing where you're torn towards specific devices, torn towards specific workflows. And this is the way you should go, because this is what will probably ultimately also make you happy. And music making should be fun. And
I encourage everyone to like really get some devices, like get a device and try it out if hardware is something for you. Get an Ableton version and try if you can make what you was thinking with this thing, and then see what you like more, and then you will know. Maybe hybrid is even the thing, right? Like you want to create nice effect change in Ableton and just put the input and make your synthesizer through it.
Exactly. And the good thing is when you start with a DAW and then maybe you add some kind of like a little bit of a dawless machines here and there, you're already set up for a hybrid. Then It's just basically combining your computer with your gear, which by the way is not that easy. It took me quite a while to get all my machines running in sync together with Ableton Live. It's a hassle, but for me in the end it was 100% worth it. And
for me not. That's why I separated, you know. I was like, then I just do it myself in Ableton alone, you know, without the machines. I can make the same sounds that I can do with my expensive equipment there. And that's why I said, okay, well, you know what? I separate this both things because I feel like the machines without the screen, they calm me down. That's why I do my calming music and more like emotional music there. And all the system and mathematic sequencing stuff I do in the Ableton. So I do also somehow my own hybrid setup because I do both, but I never combine them.
Combine it, yeah.
Over the years, I learned that.
Yeah, it's an amazing philosophy. I really like it because it's a little bit different from mine, but still I can completely understand where you're coming from, because I've been at many points there too where I just felt overwhelmed by the whole setup, which is why I also have now my little dawless setup, so I can switch it. And sometimes I'm also just grabbing my Push 3, taking it on my lap because it's battery powered, and I just make music with this device standalone.
Yes, that's also
and headphones,
a thing.
Easy.
I think there's a third part of people that actually just want one device, nothing more, with a battery outside. It's like a full scene about this, you know? Like having just like one row of modular with a power bank and then just like making a full album and recording that.
Awesome.
I love this.
I love it.
I think you should be always free in what you want to do in the end with these things. There's just one thing you have to have in mind: the gas syndrome. I feel like we should like just shortly put that in, because the problem with equipment is that in Ableton, you're like, but this sounds now a little bit boring, the synths. I like the synth, but it sounds boring. What I can put on? And then you have like so much things you can put on. If you're in hardware and you're like, this device sounds cool, but it's a bit boring. I need a nice reverb. And then you start scrolling your shopping center mood, and it's starting to be like 1 device, 2 devices, 3 devices. Oh, now I need a mixer. And wow, you look around and you're 4,000 euro less.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really true. Just quick explanation again on terms, because GAS stands for Gear Acquisition Syndrome. And yeah, it's, I think, not only in the industry, but also in photography, it's a well-known term for basically that people have this tendency to acquire more and more and more gear. And I think it's something we have discussed already in the past, and I've also made a YouTube video on that some time ago. But yeah, I think it's a very important topic to keep in mind, especially when going dawless, because I think the thinking is, I have a problem, which maybe I can't really get any further with my device, or I think I can't get any further with my device. And then I think people are looking for short-term solutions. And then the short-term solution always will be, I add another device. And then once you get into that loop, I think it will always be that you don't encourage yourself anymore to really dig deep into your machines and find the solutions there, or find workarounds, or maybe through finding workarounds, you discover completely new things where you're like, oh my God, I didn't even know that device could do that. But yeah, you're stuck in a loop of acquiring more and more and more stuff. And this is something I think people should be a little bit cautious with, because in the end, acquiring more equipment will not make you a better musician. It's more kind of like experiencing and learning the tools that you have at hand.
Yeah.
And
I feel like we have to mention that when we talk so much about get some cool tools and you know.
Very true.
Because I am the perfect example for a gas syndrome. Like, I mean, you see all this equipment there, right? You have to buy that all on some point. And there was absolutely gas syndrome. I was not the guy. I'm not the person here saying, people keep care to don't have gas syndrome. I never did it, but I have this in mind because I'm so spiritual, perfect person. No, I was buying too much stuff all the time. I needed a new filter because this filter was not doing it. And then I bought one filter 2 times to have it in stereo. And like, you know what I mean? Like, you went crazy. Totally in your rack, it's like one module that you just need that gives you an envelope or something. What the fuck? You know? And then you put so much money. In the end, you're using 3 of these modules, you know. And since, I would say, 5 years now, I don't buy, like, the S4 was a thing that I bought, the Digitakt was a thing that I bought, but really to finish the setup that I have. But Eurorack, I didn't buy anything anymore because I was like, I have a lot of options. I need to learn them first. Then figure out what I literally don't need and sell that part. And I'm still not done yet. That's why I have this mess there, because I'm constantly changing my studio and change the modular setup also. I'm putting the Moog out, putting the Atlantis in, what is like a 303, like a 101 clone almost. So you have the boards of Canada sounds, you know, you're like, nice, maybe I need that. Then you're changing constantly those modules. And with this, you learn slowly to understand these devices, and then you can understand also what you actually don't need.
Yeah.
But like,
And maybe also what you need, because this is something that it's a very great philosophy that I can 100% underline, because I feel when you learn your gear really inside out, you have a better understanding of what your gear can actually not offer. Because let's be honest, every piece of gear is limited in a certain way. And when you get into your equipment and get a bigger kind of, or better understanding of the bigger picture you want to paint with your music, and kind of like what you want to create, what sounds you want to craft, then you can start to think, okay, what else do I need for this? And I think the best decision you can make on this is when you have really learned your gear that you already have inside out, because it already, as you said, you already realize, okay, I have a lot of options. So what is out there that I really need, and how would I use it? And only, for me, it's like only when I'm really sure about this, how a certain thing would integrate in my system, then I kind of like think about getting it.
Yeah.
But it's really tough. Also, I'm not free of gas. I look at a lot of new shiny devices coming out every day.
Yeah.
And,
also the campaigns of the YouTube videos that we watch, like you see a new device, you watch the YouTube video, the campaign is amazing, it sounds amazing, and then you're like, fuck, I need that. I mean, the gas syndrome, I think, is also a thing that our full society kind of have this problem in many ways.
100%.
I think buying and making a market around everything. Also, like, first it's about the art and the connection that gives you with music, right? People come together because of music and they speak the same language and dance to it. But then there's a market around it. And sometimes it's cool to have this market around it, but I think a lot of times it's really important to also ignore this market and just say, yeah, everyone does their job, cool, but let's focus on what we actually want to do here, connect and dance and making excitement, discoveries and sound.
Making art.
Making art, not content.
And I think, boom.
We have to plug this every podcast now.
Yeah, definitely. If you didn't listen to Make Art Not Content, it's an amazing podcast.
Yes.
Listen to it after you listen to this episode.
No, we lost everyone.
Damn.
Yeah, I think
maybe now
good.
that we lost everyone.
Yeah,
maybe it's a good time to.
Oh God! Yeah,
to
I think
wind
it was
down the
good
episode.
to end it with the gas syndrome a little bit, just to remember people on that. I think my final sentence to that is I have this workflow for me where if I can imagine from what I saw online about the device already what I will do with it without reading the menu, already knowing what I will do on day one, then maybe you actually need it.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Like, you have to study the device. Like me, I did that with the S4, the Torso S4. I know I needed something for ambient. I needed a granulate engine that is live, so I can put the modular through it and kind of have to sound in that kind of quality. I know everything that I wanted, so I was looking. And then I found that device, and then I checked the workflow, and then I analyzed, okay, can I do this? Can I do this? Can I do this? And it was always a yes. So I was like, okay, I already know what I do on day one, you know? I think that's good. If you're not sure, then maybe don't buy it and then go in shops.
Wait a little bit.
Try it out, you know?
Yeah, very good point.
There's a big point that we always forget. You can try stuff out.
Yeah, you don't have to buy it immediately. That's so true.
You can also buy it and send it back. There's a lot of times where you have like 4 weeks where you can just try it with your devices at home and then sending it back.
Yeah, very good point. I think this is also something, for me, it's kind of like goes in a similar direction. It's really when I think about a piece of gear, I kind of like let it rest and see how long my interest in this piece of gear stays. So
also
in
good
this
indicator.
time I watch a lot of videos about it, so I already start to learn the device. So I go to YouTube and watch people play it. So for example, before I got the Digitone, I actually watched, I think, every Digitone tutorial that existed on the device on YouTube.
Same.
And also kind of like the big Digitone breakdown by Cuckoo, which is fantastic. I think he made a 1-hour breakdown. I think I watched this twice or even 3 times because I really wanted to know this device inside out before I got it. And then I was really, as you said, I was sure that this is something that would really fit my workflow and bring my kind of like music making forward. And when I purchased it, it was actually exactly the case. So I got it. I started making music on it. And I think for 1 year, I didn't buy another piece of music equipment. I only made music on this box. And this is also why I learned the Digitone really inside out, because I just spent so much time with it. I stumbled across all the limitations it has because it only has 4 tracks to record on, which is obviously very limited.
Yeah.
But then there are workarounds in the sequencer where you can get a full drum sound, or kind of like drums like kick, hi-hat and snare, everything on one track. So you have the other 3 tracks free for bass, for melodic parts and so on. And it's like you experience all of that, and it teaches you a lot about music making, about sound design and all of that stuff.
Yes, you learn a lot of things.
And I think this is really, really important. So I think this is something where you can make sure that actually a piece of gear that you really need it.
Yeah, and not something that is just shiny object syndrome.
Exactly that. And I think it's the same for finding your workflow. It goes in the same direction. Maybe just some final thoughts on that. It's really experience, try stuff out. Yes, sometimes there will be errors, so you won't like everything that you try. But this is kind of like what trial is for. Look into the internet. You have so many resources of people using equipment, and really think okay, is this a workflow I see myself in? I could see myself in having fun exploring it, something that sparks my inspiration, my exploration. And when it's all a yes, as with your nice list, then you should potentially get it. And this is the workflow for you to go.
Yeah. Yeah, the hardware.
Good old hardware, yeah.
Yeah, in the end, I want to go less. So it's like more calming, actually. It's funny.
Yeah.
In the beginning, I remember my studio, when I was like my big time studio, when I literally got like a proper studio, I got like a monster case of Eurorack. It's like a wall, you know, it was crazy. And this was all on the left side. And then my computer with the speakers on the right, like I got this U, you know, and around me was just hardware. And now I actually want to separate even the tables, you know, it's like funny.
Yeah, I understand.
I couldn't have it here, you know, I was like, nah.
Yeah, you need it somewhere else.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay, I think we talk about everything that is important when you want to make this decision.
Yeah.
And like
if you have any questions, let us know. Drop us a comment.
Absolutely.
No matter if you're listening on YouTube, on Spotify, you can also comment on Spotify. So any questions, let us know. Maybe we'll make a complete episode out of one question one day. Who knows?
Absolutely.
So always looking for inspiration, and looking forward to getting in touch with you. And I would say thank you all so much for listening, for watching, and for being part of this journey. We really appreciate it. And an amazing day.
We'll see you soon. Bye.
See you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.